Welcome to Golf Smarter Mulligans, your second chance to gain insight and advice from the best instructors featured on the Golf Smarter podcast. Great golf instruction never gets old. Our interview library features hundreds of hours of game improvement conversations like this that are no longer available in any podcast app.
In my mind, I don't think anyone's ever controlled the ball like Ben Hogan. He played off the left side. He played off of one axis. There's two axis points in the swing, left leg, right leg. In moving to the right leg, you have to make some kind of a lateral move back to the left leg and then rotate around the left leg. And that transitional move is where all the problems happen in the golf swing. And also, if you're rolling your arms or crossing your arms over, the club head is going to be open a long time, closed a long time, and square for just a moment. And the more you practice, the closer you can get to square more often. But there's still a lot of air involved in that swing.
With another interview from the archives of Golf Smarter, here's your host, Fred Green.
Our guest today is Tony Manzoni, a very interesting man with a fascinating career that includes tour player, instructor, college coach, contributing author, and co-founder of Callaway. Impressive. He'll provide us with all the details on that. But most interestingly of all, based on years of research and modifications, he's unleashed the single pivot swing, which may be the secret to Ben Hogan's amazing ball striking ability. Let's find out more, shall we? Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Tony.
Hi, Fred. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining us. You've got an illustrious history in the golf world, and I'm really intrigued about talking to you about where you started and where you are today. You really have done a lot of different things in golf, haven't you?
Well, I have. I started my career in the Chicago area, well, near Chicago, in Wisconsin, about 50 miles from Chicago at Nipperson Country Club. And I, kind of made my bones there and went into the service, came back and worked at Almaden Country Club in San Jose, where I lived. And from that point, Ken Venturi, who I knew very well.
Wait, you're talking Almaden Country Club in Northern California?
Yes.
Okay, that Almaden. All right, because all of a sudden you were in Wisconsin and now you're in San Jose. Okay.
Yeah, well, we moved to California, moved to San Jose because I was Chicago born,
right?
And got a job at Almaden and played pretty good golf, and turned professional. Obviously, made some good scores. I think I still have the record there at 61 at Almaden. Met Ken Venturi, played in a few events with him. He talked me into coming into the desert, the Palm Desert area. There was a new golf course called Mission Hills opening up.
Sure.
And I worked for Ken as the head professional. He was director of golf, but primarily he was with CBS, so we saw him once a month. During that period of time, I got an idea because I was training a lot of LPGA gals, and one of them was Sally Little. And I got an idea about playing a mixed team championship where we wanted to play men against women, giving the ladies a distance margin. As it turned out to be the mixed team championship. J.C. Penney's was the group that. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that they sponsored it, and that was for about 16 years on ABC. And from that point in time, I was very interested in golf club design, and I got together with a fellow by the name of Richard Parenti and Dick Delacruz, and we started a company called Hickory Stick. And we were selling a lot of clubs, but we didn't have the capital to cover the orders. A fellow by the name of Ely Callaway was a member at the Vintage, where I had sold 130 for one of their golf expos there, and he liked the club. I made a cold call to him and talked him into investing in the company, which he did. And myself,
wow, that's like the best call you ever made.
Best call, yeah.
Oh my
gosh. One of the great cold calls of all time, for sure.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. I wish it was that easy.
I talked him into putting his name on the. We started out as Callaway Hickory Stick Golf Club, and then it went from Callaway Hickory Stick to Callaway Golf, and the company ended up settling in the Carlsbad area, which is the heartbeat of all the golf club companies. And from then we went public, and during that period of time, I decided I wanted to go in a little different direction. So I had a hunk of money, didn't want to retire, and when I heard that the College of the Desert was thinking about a golf academy, and they had about a 25-acre piece of land and no funding. So through friends of mine and the help of Greg Norman and a few people that I knew in the industry, we built a golf driving range, a building, and a classroom, and it houses a golf management program. And I had intended to do this for 2 or 3 years, get it started, and let it flourish. And the crazy part about it, this is my 25th year. I became the golf coach of College of the Desert, which has been probably one of the most satisfying things I've ever done in golf. And I mean, I'm talking Callaway and mixed team championship and all that. But to work with these young kids and to change the direction in their life off the golf course has been the most rewarding thing, and it's what keeps me going. Just being around these kids, and we have a great record. We've won our conference championship 23 years in a row, and we won state championship 4 times under my tutelage. And so that, it's all good. It's all real good. And during that period of time, my passion is teaching golf. I played at a decent level. I had my moments in golf, but I really was too interested in going out at night and chasing skirts and drinking a few beers. And I passed that on to my students. I said I wasted a pretty good opportunity. So I used some of the faults in my own life as examples of what not to do. But golf has always been my passion in instruction. There's nothing like helping somebody with their golf game and seeing them play much better golf. That's way, for me, it's worth more than the money that you get for doing it.
I'm a little bit shocked and stunned, dismayed here. You mean the path to enlightenment and happiness is not lower scores? It's teaching? It's sharing your knowledge with the future?
It is. It really, for me, it is. I mean, I'm sure that there are other people that won't agree with that, but for me, it's been
I thought if we just hit lower scores, we're just going to be happy forever.
Well, I'll tell you, even when I shot 61, I still blurted out, and I didn't birdie a par 5. Somebody should have come along and slapped me in the head that time. But that's just the mindset of all of us when we play golf. We always think we could have done better. Anyway, I started studying Ben Hogan because, in my mind, I don't think anyone's ever controlled the ball like Ben Hogan, in the past or in the present. There's no, these guys, he could give strokes to most of these guys when it comes to pure ball striking. I don't mean scoring, I don't mean putting, but I mean hitting the ball from tee to green. And a wave of change has occurred in the golf and teaching of golf. At one time, one of the commonalities of what you saw of a really good player was his head didn't move. And then pretty soon people start saying it's okay for your head to move, and it can go anywhere it wants to go. Well, your head, there's a center point in the golf swing. When you set to the ball, you center yourself to it. And if you move off the ball, you've got to move back on it. So there's a lot of compensations occurring. And also, I was brought up in the era where you fan the club open and close it, so you square the club head with the rotation in the arms. But in watching Hogan, especially in his later years, and he didn't really make a lot of film available for people to see. I read all his books, but nothing in his books said what he did, in my estimation. Maybe grip and so forth. But he played off the left side. He played off of one axis. There's 2 axis points in the swing, left leg, right leg. In moving to the right leg, you have to make some kind of a lateral move back to the left leg and then rotate around the left leg. And that transitional move is where all the problems happen in the golf swing. And also, if you're rolling your arms or crossing your arms over, the club head is going to be open a long time, close a long time, and square for just a moment. And the more you practice, the closer you can get to square more often. But there's still a lot of error involved in that swing. And you can look at all the arm swingers. I can name you Phil Mickelson. I can name you Tiger Woods. And I can name you Dustin Johnson. These are known names. And they hit the heck out of the ball, but they can hit it anywhere in the world. And they can hit it 2 fairways right. You never saw that in Hogan's era, okay? Part of that's moving off the ball. The second part is that Hogan learned to square the golf club with his body rotation. So he connected the arm as he took it back across the chest and then rotated the body to square it. Now the club has stayed square for a real long time. And that's to me, is the secret of hitting the ball properly. You put very little side spin on the ball, so your shot dispersion, you're always going to push it, you're always going to pull it. That's just golf. But you won't pull it with a hook or side spin. You won't push it with a slice. So your dispersion gets very narrow. And by rotating your body, instead of tilting down and under, that's where all the spine problems and back problems happen. When you rotate your body, you can rotate to where your right shoulder points to the target and your chest is left the target. Now, I have an 86-year-old man that I teach. I've got a lot of people from the Vintage and El Dorado, which are really fine clubs, probably the best in the desert, and they come to me for golf instruction because they like what I'm teaching, and they can hit the ball more solid more often because, again, we don't have any compensations in the motion. We brace up against the left side, rotate the body, and rotate back the other way. Don't have to make a lateral move. Don't have to turn the hands over and time anything. We just rotate the body. We trap the club on the left arm on the chest. So it's a really easy way to play. Well, during this period, Al Barco, a noted writer, interviewed me, and I'm nobody. I'm a guy at a driving range.
Not really, but yeah.
Well, he liked what I had to say, and he put about an 8-pager in Golf Illustrated magazine, and the response was overwhelming. I got calls from all over about people telling me, well, I was trying stack until I couldn't do that, and this really helped me, and my back doesn't hurt, and blah blah blah. I talked with the editor of Golf Illustrated, and he said, would you like to have a Golf Illustrated single pivot golf school? And that's what's going to happen in December, College of the Desert. I've got Al Geiberger, who has followed this process, teaches now and plays this way. I got his son, Brian, who's a very, very fine player, a good instructor from Canada by the name of Mike Lyons, and myself. And we're going to put together a hell of a golf school. And when people walk out of that school, they're going to know why they hit it right, hit it left. And when the ball spins, they'll know they'll know a simple move to stop it from spinning. And they're going to be able to hit the ball farther than they've done in their life. And I don't care if they're a young player thinking about the tour or an old guy that's played and he can't get off his right side anymore. He spins out and slices everything. We'll fix all that. And it's not complicated. I've never believed that the golf swing was rocket science, but I did know that Ben Hogan knew something that other people didn't. And he divulged this in subsequent books where he made phrases. He said, well, I'm going to play off my left side from now on. Lee Trevino said to me, I've never seen anybody play good off their right side, but I said a lot of great players play off their left side. But when he made that statement to me, I had no idea what he was talking about. I never realized, because you never stop learning in this game. This is a school you never graduate from, because there's always tweaking. There's always things that you can glean from other players, other teachers, and so forth. So I do know one thing. Tiger Woods is now being taught to play off the left side. Watney just said on television in the last tournament, I had a great tip. I set up with 70% on my left side. They're all getting back to staying centered to the golf ball. It's just too hard when you're moving that club as fast as these young people are moving it. It's too hard to time it with your hands and arms. You've got to trap it so that you can turn through it and eliminate the left side. And that's what this does. I can tell you that I don't care who it is that's wild with a driver, 15 minutes with them, especially if they're a good player, a tour player, let's say. 15 minutes to learn this process, they can hit it as hard as they want and not hit it left. So it's very exciting, and it's going to be really worthwhile.
Well, that was an all-encompassing answer. You answered every single question that I didn't even get to ask in your first answer.
I can go into detail more than that.
Well, that's what I want to do. I'm going to want to go into details, but I do need to break for just a moment. Tony, thanks so much for waiting. And let's get back to I don't even know where to go here. I do wanted to ask you about working at the College of the Desert before we go back into your golf school, and then, of course, the single pivot swing. But is the College of the Desert, do you cover more than just golf instruction? I mean, there's so many kids today who may not be good enough to get up to the tour, but they love golf so much that they would like to be involved in the golf industry. Does your program facilitate that?
Absolutely. We have a golf management program,
you do?
And we take the kids through turf grass management, golf shop operations, methods of teaching golf, fundamentals and rules of golf, public speaking, marketing classes. It has a business aspect to it. It has a general education aspect to it, and then it has core training aspect to it, which is the core courses like golf shop operations or methods of teaching golf. So when a student comes out of this 2-year program with an AA degree, they can get into the industry and they get into middle management very quickly. For instance, in this valley, I've got 9 head professionals that have come out of this program. One of my students has been in China for 15 years, and in fact, I'm leaving the 18th of next month to go to China because we're going to create a linkage of Chinese students coming to College of the Desert and taking accelerated programs, and at the same time they're interested in maybe me setting up some golf schools in China. So I'm very excited about that. But the college program is really a terrific program. The PGA of America has these IGM programs, and it's a 5-year commitment. I kind of like what we do and what the San Diego career colleges do. You get in and get out 2 years, and you certainly have you're not going to be an expert, and no one is coming out of these programs because you have to have the hands-on. But that 2-year commitment, you can get right out into industry and get going.
That's fabulous. And do you have a golf team as well?
Oh, we have a great golf team. I've been coach for, I believe it's now going on 19 years, and we've won our conference every year. The previous coach, who was a terrific coach, we had won it a few more years. So we're at the 23rd year in a row right now. And under my coaching, I've won 4 state championships and a number of what they call regional tournaments. It's been just great working with young people. First of all, they all hit it over 300 yards. It's crazy. I mean, I feel like putting on a taffeta dress when I play with the boys. So I finally said, okay, from now on, I'm up in the up tees. I swallowed my pride because at one time I could pop it pretty far, but it's just crazy how far they hit it now. And but the problem is that they can hit it anywhere far, and so we try to get them to understand how they have to manage themselves on the golf course. And of course, anger is one of the things that comes along with the game, and you have to have a little fire in your belly to be a competitor, obviously, but you can't let it affect you to the point where it affects your next group of shots. And I, being Italian, struggled with that up until last week. But anyway,
you mean you would have shot a 60 that day?
Yeah, but I do try to talk to the boys. In all honesty, these are the things you can't do and can do it. You don't understand that you also disrupt other people. When you're angry at yourself, it makes people uncomfortable around you, and it's not what the game is supposed to be. But it's gotten to the point where there's so much money now and all of that, all that fame that's attached to it, that I think we've lost a little bit in the transition from the days when guys jumped in a jalopy and drove from tournament to tournament and didn't make enough money to stay on tour. They had to go and take club jobs, but there was something really pure about that period. Now, I'm sure
also in that period, the amateur status was was looked upon much differently than it is today. Even if you have an amateur status today, I mean, does that even exist? Well, I guess it would for college players, but
Right, you're right. Yeah, I mean there is, but I think that a lot of people, just like in other sports, they kind of get around it a bit.
Sure.
But anyway, the college program really is the reason I'm here more than anything else.
So we've heard about stack and tilt. We've heard about single plane and dual plane swings. Now you want to talk about the single pivot swing. Stack and tilt. I'm not going to say that they're wrong. It's just a different way of looking at it. I'm basing everything I'm talking about on what I believe who was the best golfer, and that was Ben Hogan. And Ben Hogan in his later years played off his left side, and that just really means that he eliminated the lateral move in the golf swing. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do need a better understanding, better explanation of what you mean by playing off the left side. And I'm standing up right now, so.
Okay, when you set up to the golf ball, instead of setting up 50-50 or even 40 being the left side and 60 being the right, like a lot of people really tilt to the right when they're going to hit a driver because they've been told if they hang back like that, they can work under and catch the ball on the upswing. And
Sure.
and that's true if you're going to rotate your hands and arms. But Hogan braced up a little left. Now, he did it a little differently than I teach. When he took the club back, it looked like he was going to move to the right, but as the club went back in his rotation, he set up against the left side, and I've got a zillion pictures showing that. And he set up against the left side because now he's against impact, and all he has to do is rotate his body. You don't lose any power, trust me. In fact, you gain power, and more importantly, because you can catch the ball dead square. Again, you're not moving away from the golf ball in the backswing. So it's nothing new. It was done for years by a lot of players. It just wasn't talked about. And I think a lot of people misinterpret doing that. They say, well, aren't you reversing your weight shift? Aren't you? And that's the farthest thing from the truth. The reverse of the weight shift is when you stand up to the ball and your hips slide underneath you and your hips go to the right and your head is to the left, and then on the downswing your head goes back and your hips go forward and you're on the right foot. That's how the reversing the weight shift. But staying on one axis and then working around that axis is a far cry from that, and it's I can tell you there's a lot of naysayers until I have 10 minutes with them, and then I own them.
Yeah, yeah. Once you can show them and put the club in their hand and work with them directly, I'm sure you have much different result than just trying to explain it without the visuals.
Yeah, and it's not this is not an old man's thing. I've got a couple of 15-year-olds that are shooting in the 60s, and they beat that ball over 300 yards at 15 years old. And they look at me. I got one Korean boy, and every time he hits, he looks at me and says, "Coach, no side spin," and I just get a big kick out of that. You know, it's my passion. As you can tell, I talk too much about it and too fast about it, but I can't help myself.
I can't even take notes. You're talking so fast.
Yeah, I can't help myself. It's because I'm excited about this. It is a breakthrough, and there's no question about it.
Fabulous. And now for the school, how many days is the school that you're going to be putting on for your?
It'll be a 1 or 2 day school. Each day, 6 hours of instruction. So it'll be a 1 day Saturday school and a 1 day Sunday school. So a person can come to both schools if they need be. But to be honest with you, if we have you for 6 hours, you're going to be able to do it, and you're going to understand why you do it. We're going to teach you cause and effect, and that's very important for someone. And I can promise you that I will not have anyone that won't be swinging the. And we'll prove it. We're going to film you in the beginning and film you in the end. You're going to see a tremendous change in your setup position and the way you finish. Most people never get to their left side because they're too far on the right side to ever get there. And we'll get you through the golf ball. And we're not going to say to you, shift your weight. We're going to show you how to rotate your body, and that's going to make your weight shift. And you're going to be in really good balance. And you're going to hit the ball hard for the first time in a while.
If somebody wants to sign up for the school, where would they go to get more information about it?
They would call, or they would contact my website, which is T Manzoni at collegeofthedesert.edu. And my last name is spelled M-A-N-Z like zebra, O-N like Nancy I.
Okay, so T Manzoni at collegeofthedesert.edu?
Right, or by next month.
It is College of the Desert.
Right,
and,
all spelled
so
out.
That's an email address, and they would have to email you for more information?
Either that, or they can call me at 760-341-2491.
And when is the school going to be taking place?
The first school will be the 11th and 12th of December.
2010. You know, the thing about a golf school that I've had difficulty with is that, say you get 1 day of instruction, or 2 days at best of instruction, or 3 or 4, and you go through it and you're like, okay, I got it. Yeah, I understand what I'm doing now. And then you go home. and you don't get a chance, now that you've played 3 days in a row, you've got to catch up back with your life and your work, and you don't get a chance to play for 3 weeks, and you don't get a chance to practice for 2 weeks, whatever, and you go out there and all of a sudden it's all gone. It's like, now what did they teach me again? And I find that to be a difficult part about golf schools, that it's, if I'm coming across the country, go to your school, I'm going to lose all this stuff. How do I retain it? What kind of follow-up do you have to help somebody if they're like, okay, so I went to your school and I got it and it was great, but now I need some help?
Everyone's going to get a book, is going to get a book called The Lost Fundamental, which I've written, and it will be out before the school starts, and it's a complete explanation. Also, they will be able to talk to us via email, and we can actually, if they tell us what the ball is doing, we can tell them what they're doing. But we're not basing our instruction on timing, and that's a key issue. We're not basing that instruction on you going out and hitting 400 balls a day. We're basing it on body position. If we can show you where your body should be on the backswing and on the through swing, the rest of it is pretty easy. Once you connect your arms, or keep your arms connected to the body, and of course they're connected. I mean, it sounds almost insane to say that, but connection in the golf swing is different than the body being attached to the arm being attached to the body. Once we show them how connection occurs, and it's a very, very simple explanation with an exercise, they can do it almost instantly, and you will be able to tell by what the ball does if you're connected or disconnected. There is no question about that. In fact, a good instructor can turn his back to the student and watch the ball flight, and he can tell you physically what you did. It is so simple. So what our school will be is this explanation over and over and over for 6 hours. And when you walk away from here, you're going to be able to do this. It isn't going to be a matter of you're going to lose it, because we're not basing it on you having good timing that particular day.
So the name of your book, The Lost Fundamental, is there something specific that it is a basic fundamental that is missing for most people who take instruction? Well,
it's playing centered to the ball, and that's been. Mm-hmm. And that's the fundamental that really is lost, because there's so many people teaching to move the weight all onto the right leg and then move it back all the way onto the left leg.
I've noticed that when I've taken a lesson, or I've been given instruction, or even going through a change, a swing change, that the first thing that happens to me is that all of a sudden my rhythm is all screwed up. My timing, I start speeding things up.
Well, rhythm is a very important aspect, and with the technology that's happening nowadays, I met a gentleman by the name of Ted Caldwell that has invented a thing called Shot Watch, and it's an amazing piece of equipment because it monitors your rhythm, and I think most importantly, it monitors your grip pressure on the golf handle through impact, which really has a lot to do with velocity. And it also monitors the time of the swing. So you can take this watch, put it on, it tells the time, and you spin it around and turn it backwards on your left hand if you're a right-handed golfer, and go ahead and pop the ball, and it's going to give you these readouts, and you can store these readouts. So a person practicing can really, really, when they hit it really well, they can look at those numbers and say, okay, that's the numbers I want to get close to. In fact, I have Ted right here. I'd like to have...
That would be great. And it's interesting because when Ted first introduced the Shot Watch, he came on, we talked about it on the Golf Smarter podcast, and there were so many people that, so many listeners who purchased the Shot Watch, and I got great feedback. Ted, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Fred. Nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, it's great talking to you. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing this time with Tony.
Yes, it's a pleasure. I was listening very carefully to what Tony was having to say, because one of the things that we've adopted at the urging of Tony, and consistent with his single pivot idea, is our grip pressure now has an added feature. Just to refresh your memory, or for your first-time listeners that aren't familiar with Shot Watch, we have a pressure plate on the back of the watch that's very, very sensitive, and it makes contact with the pulse point on the active arm, the left arm for a right-handed golfer. Now, when the arms rotate or the wrist moves, those tendons exert pressure against that plate, and that's what we get our grip pressure readings on. Now, in addition to giving a reading on the grip pressure throughout the swing plane, which is the average from takeaway to contact with the ball, we do a statistical operation on that on those grip pressure readings. There's 50 or so of them through the swing, and then we give the variation in the grip pressure. So what that tells the user is that if there's a large number for the variation, there's a lot of variation in your grip pressure through your swing, which is just the opposite of what Tony is talking about, because that means the arms are rolling over, the wrists are cocking, the golfer is bearing down at the time he's either breaking his wrist or cocking or making contact with the ball. That will cause a variation in the grip pressure instead of, as Tony was talking about, keeping it constant throughout the swing. So we've added that feature, and we think that's going to be very, very helpful in terms of getting people to hit longer and straighter shots. We still have the other swing parameters. We have the swing speed, where we encourage the use of the instrument as a swing speed workout device. Start off hitting slow, swinging slowly, keep maintaining balance, working on the single pivot, and gradually increasing your speed while maintaining your balance, and while and so we give a digital readout of that speed, with 1 being slowest, 10 being fastest, so that like Tony's guys here, they're off the charts. They exceed what we can capture with the shot watch, because as he's saying, they'll whip that club around at a phenomenal rate, in excess of 130 miles an hour. But for just us mere mortals, we're going to start out. We're going to work toward getting that single pivot swing, keeping everything compact, and making good contact with the ball to drive it longer. So
the shot watch, you've done a lot of work on the shot watch since it initially came out, and you've made a bunch of changes. Let's talk for a moment. Clearly, the shot watch has a lot of value to someone at the range to help them get a steady pace, a good rhythm going. But also, and this new concept of grip pressure, I think, is really interesting, because I know there are times where I find myself, white knuckling. I'm just squeezing the club in a pressure situation, and you've really got to learn to control that.
Yes, you do, and it really does help, Fred, to have a digital display represented as a real number, which you can then record, in your active memory, and then on subsequent swings say, I got to get that number, whether it's the variation in the grip pressure number or the absolute number. I've got to get that to where there aren't these spikes, in the grip pressure or large number in the variation readout.
I would think that it would be really valuable to have this on the range and try different swings, but gripping it at different pressures intentionally, so that you can see what it feels like, and then you have a gauge to go, oh, okay, so that's what it feels like if I'm really squeezing too hard, and that's what it is if I'm not enough. So you can really get a comparison, and then take that with you out on the course to say, all right, this is the difference between what it feels like. I got to relax. I can feel that I'm gripping too hard.
And where the rubber hits the road is whether the ball goes straight. And if there's a lot of variation in the grip pressure, as Tony was saying, you're going to slice it, and because that that bearing down is going to alter the flight of the ball as much as anything, and to go onto the range with that nice relaxed grip, again, to quote Hogan, just tight enough to keep that club in your hands, and there's a digital number that, depending on the hand strength of the individual user, that's custom fit, if it's, the number that works for you is the one you'll commit to memory, and the device is really, its strength, its strongest selling point is that it's a muscle memory device.
So important. Well, it's great to have you back on the show and bringing Tony along. He's absolutely
yes. Well,
fascinating.
I want to thank you, Fred, and I also want to thank Tony because his advice, his all his experience in teaching golf and all the rest of that has helped us in the development of the product enormously, and so this is genuinely a team effort, and we're delighted to work together with Tony and his boys out here.
Great. And can I say goodbye to Tony myself?
Yes, here he is.
Hey, Fred.
Hey, Tony. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast, and best of luck with the school. And I'm hoping when I come back down to the desert sometime in 2011 that we'll get a chance to meet one another face to face.
I hope so too, and I hope I didn't give you in kind of a bad ear here with all that.
Oh no,
chatter,
I loved it.
Okay.
And at some point, I'm going to want to be wearing a cap from your team, from College of the Desert golf team.
That's a given.
Awesome.
All right, pal.
Thank you, Tony, very much. We'll talk to you again.
Thank you. Bye now.